Hey, Gearheads, and welcome to GT Garage Talk, a discussion about all things automotive. I am your host, Corey, and on this week's episode, I'm very excited. Not only do we get to talk cars, we get to talk a little bit of pop culture and how they intersect, because this week our guest is none other than Sean Tajipour from West Houston Muscle, also of Nerdtropolis. So you can see where his two worlds colliding in pop culture and automotive would be a very fun conversation. And I'm not even going to ramble all that much here at the beginning. I'm just going to bring on Sean and let the conversation speak for itself. Well, we are so grateful for Sean and him taking some time to join with us today. Sean, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Doing quite well. We got a little bit of rain yesterday. Apparently, all the rain in the forecast today decided to stay away. How's life down there a little further south of me?
It is hot. We do need some rain. I just hope not this weekend. I do have an event this weekend, so hopefully it comes in next couple days. But yeah, it's been hot. I'm not gonna lie. Yesterday, I actually had to work on my Hummer. I have an H2, and I had a radiator crack,
Oof.
and I didn't even notice. You can't tell. I'm like looking at it. I'm like, is what's wrong? Where's this coming from? This fluid. And then my eyes go to the corner, and there's a hairline crack.
Always
So
good in the heat of summer, right?
yeah, it was literally. I started working on it 12 p.m.
Mm, mm. And of course, not only do you have the same heat that I do, but you've got the added blessing of humidity, right?
Oh, it's bad. It's I don't lived here my entire life. I'm not used to it.
Yeah.
You don't get used to it.
Yeah, I make the joke with a lot of people, especially here in East Texas, that complain about the humidity, and I'm like, oh no, you don't even know. Like I steal the line from Bane in The Dark Knight about he's talking about the darkness. You were merely adapted to it, but I was born in it. That's how I feel about humidity coming from the Houston area. Like. But I will say, having moved up to East Texas when I was 9 and being 35 now, every time I go back down to the Houston area, I'm like, oh, like I remember, and yeah, it's a bit much.
Yeah, we just try to stay in our car or house or building as much as possible. Hopefully straight into a garage, then straight into the building, right? We don't want to do any sidewalks or anything anywhere.
One of the last times I did any filming down there, anytime I took a camera out of my backpack and hooked it up, everything fogged over. I'm like, well, this isn't going to work either. It is so miserable down there this
I
time
keep
of
saying
year.
I want to move. I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff down there, which I know you have your hands in, and we really need to get into exactly what it is that you do, not only in the automotive space, but you're building a little empire down there.
I'm trying to from a little city down here, try to compete, not compete, but kind of keep up with everyone else. But, I started in the automotive space about 13, 14 years ago when I was in college at U of H. It just started as being in car clubs as a teenager and then going to UTSA for a year before jumping to U of H and being part of another car club. And so when I came back home, I wanted to kind of meet like-minded people, and I just sold my BMW. I had E39 5 Series.
Oh.
So I was into the European import scene for a while. But then I bought an '06 GTO, and those are like night and day. And I was very new to like this American muscle type thing and big V8s and stuff like that. And it has an LS2 engine, so a lot of the Corvette guys have the LS engines. So I just want to meet like-minded individuals. Like, well, I've been part of two car clubs. I think I can start my own. And so I did that at the age of 19. January 2009, I hosted my first little street meet. I had 75 cars come. And so when
Wow.
I did that, I was like, okay, there's something here. And then I had local businesses start seeing this and then start wanting me to do events for them. And so the club is 13, 14 years old, over 4,000 club members, helped me kind of build my event coordination career on top of that, and then kind of helped me grow my social media presence. And kind of that rolled into with the reach and audience I have is kind of dabble in the automotive media space just to entertain and inform. That's all I want to do is entertain and inform people with accuracy and fun.
Yeah, and I had a conversation with Nathan Edlin from TFL, and man, what a blessing he has been for me and my channel. He has been one of my biggest cheerleaders along the way. And in conversation with him, he said he's just so proud anytime someone comes along and knows what they're talking about, is properly informing the audience, that he sees it as a boon for everybody. The more informed journalists we have out there, the better. So that really is a good approach. And man, you're getting some pretty cool stuff down there, not only in your West Houston Muscle and all that's going on there, but some of the press vehicles that are showing up down there for you are making me a little jealous up here in East Texas.
I think I'm just lucky the city I'm in and just, having fun with some of the content. I've been shifting, the YouTube realm isn't my strong point, but Facebook is. And then I realized Reels were. And so I started making Reels and I was like, this is much more fun than putting together YouTube videos, which I still do, but it's just a whole different creativity mindset when it comes to Reels and just short form. I was always about short form, entertainment and information, which will later lead on to how I started Nerdtropolis and stuff like that. But just, I guess, having fun. I love photography. As a kid, grew up in high school, I was in photojournalism. So, like, photography and videography is, like, really what I love. I love capturing cool moments. I love editing, creating stuff. So I'm not technically a journalist. I'm more of a content creator in that aspect, which I'm proud to be. And it's really fun with my creative mind that I have.
Yeah, just seeing some of the stuff. You and I have gone to the same event multiple times together, and seeing the photos that you walk out of there with versus what I walk out of there with, I'm like, did we go to the same place? Because my goodness, his stuff looks good. But yeah, you were able, like some of the thumbnails on your Ram TRX video from 2020, I was just like, dang, like that.
Yeah. So I got second place in the Artawa competition for their photo. So I didn't know. I know there's a lot of great photographers out there. So I'm looking forward to submitting more stuff for this year's competition. But like I
Deadline's
said,
coming up.
fun with capturing things and just thinking differently, or just playing around with some colors and just editing and stuff. I adopted Photoshop in high school, so I was actually teaching the class at the time because I learned faster than the teacher that was teaching it because they were learning as they went,
Right.
learning all this stuff, and I was just helping the students with Photoshop and other softwares when Dreamweaver was like around, like then that was just coming out, and Flash, and like building all these little small animations and stuff. So I had a good head start in high school, back in the day of creativity and putting it to use on computer.
Yeah, well, I will say good luck to you on the 2022 Tawa Excellence in what EICC. I can't remember what all the initials are. I know I've got my 2 trophies from podcasting back behind me, looking to add to my collection back there for sure. But yeah, just you are in a good spot, being in the Houston area for just great automotive vehicles in your clubs and press vehicles as well. And in the past month, I know you've had the Z, you've had a couple pretty sweet Lexus coupes and sedans and all kinds of stuff. What are some press vehicles that have really stood out to you?
Yeah, so I try to get for press vehicle wise, for my audience, I try to get some performance and luxury based vehicles, something with more, not so basic, more pizzazz to them, because also that speaks volumes online. But to be honest, I'm not gonna lie, the Z is pretty awesome. I'm still waiting to see when these actually hit the streets in different colors and different specs and stuff like that. But I'm gonna say it, the Nissan Z is gonna be a true winner once it starts being delivered. It's just amazing. So hopefully you haven't had it yet, have you?
I have not. I'm just salivating at the opportunity and knocking, pounding, banging on the door of Nissan like, hey, don't forget about me over here. I have to ask, because I know you've been in both. Granted, completely different environments in which you had them. Well, I guess you did have that yellow Supra on your home turf, but the inevitable comparison is going to be made between Supra and Z, and they're really completely different approaches in that the Supra was built from the ground up, all new, modern technology, modern everything shared with BMW, whereas the Z is a heavily refreshed, modified version of a very old platform. How do you feel those will inevitably go up head to head?
And you're right too. The new Z is almost like a slightly refreshed 370. It's not as drastic if you think about it, other than the lines. Once you sit inside it and you look at the door handles and the radio and everything else, the seats, which is not a bad thing,
Right.
because they're trying to grab those previous Z owners and they don't want to go so far forward. I think the Z is a really well done refresh with the better, engine and all that stuff. But the Supra, when I sat in that thing, when I drove that thing, that was an easy street to track car.
Hmm.
Like no questions asked, no modifications needed. And they will be offering a 6 speed on that because the Z is offering a 6 speed.
You gotta love competition, right?
Right. So I do love the wow factor the Z gave me on the streets and parking lots. And when I took it to Coffee and Cars, they put me up front next to I think it was a 240Z, I believe it was. So like that wow factor's there, and the driving is great. But the Supra is like such a more brand new, refreshed design, from the previous Supra, where the new Z is just a facelift to me, which is not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it is almost. I've been in other Z's before. I'm like, this is pretty cool. It's very similar but updated, and which is great. Nothing was wrong with them because I
Right.
fell in love with the 350 when it first came out.
Yeah, that's basically, granted, I'm doing what I despise other people doing. I'm being a spec sheet jockey over here, but just knowing what I know of the Supra and the Z, how the Z came to market, I had the 2.0 Supra here, and on the streets, that's really all you need. I've taken the 3.0, you and I have both taken the 3.0 on a track and really put it through its paces and know the capabilities of, like you said, basically taking a street car on the track and knowing that it will be good. I'm really wondering long term how this rivalry is going to shake out. If that new wow factor will wear off the Z and people will realize just how advanced the new Supra is in comparison.
Right. And I had the 3.0 also as a press car, and I had the Corvette beforehand,
Mm.
the new C8. And to be honest, I preferred the Supra over the C8 Corvette being American muscle car guy. Just
Interesting.
something about the 3.0 GR Premium was just wild to me. The way it sounded, the way it handled, how quick it was.
Hmm.
And it just, you feel in a tight space, it's pretty cool. And it's a short base too compared to the C8. So it definitely with the new Z, it's almost even right there. And it just depends with the Nismo and when obviously the price points come out because the price points have been kind of varied for the Z.
Right.
But apparently there's three variations coming out.
Yeah, a base, a sport, and then like the Z Proto or whatever.
Ace is a pretty they're all well priced.
Hmm.
It's crazy. I think the one I tested was around 42,000. And I was like, that's not a bad price at all. So we'll just have to see what happens with production, how many are built, and it just really comes down to that.
Yeah, that's really right in line with the 2.0 Supra that we had. And the Z's calling card is the twin turbo V6 making over 400 horsepower through a 6 speed manual, which, again, in that little 2 liter Supra at the same price, not there. So, very interesting to see. I cannot wait to see how this rivalry plays out. It'll be a good one for the next 5 years, at least. Just kind of
I'll,
them taking jabs at one
I'll,
another.
I will tell you the Z has way better colors, I
Hmm.
think, than what Super offers. I think the paint and color variations are pretty darn nice. So hopefully Super introduces some newer colors and some cooler metallic based colors as well.
Yeah, the GR86 has got that. Like, I know Chevy calls it a rapid blue, I believe. Very similar to that bright baby blue on the GR86. That I'm like, would that look good on the Supra? I think it would. But something, bright, loud in your face other than, yellow and red.
Yeah, that's for sure. The red's beautiful on the Z. The blue is really nice. I love to see more colors that come out. The yellow actually was pretty cool. Because of the type of metallic coat it has in the inside and in the sun. totally different types of shades of yellow that you get from a gold crisp to like a hot yellow.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Cannot wait to start seeing those on the road. Everybody's got very strong opinions on both vehicles. And, who's to say who's right or wrong on that one, right?
Have them all. That's what we do. That's how I think. Just have one of each.
So we cannot pivot away from the fact that you run a car club, that you do events and all kinds of crazy things. What has that been like in the Houston area? What kind of people have you met? Because that's really what this podcast is about, the people and the cars.
Yeah, I've met so many people. It's crazy the amount of people I've met in the past 13 years. A lot of them have become family members by now. The very first event I spoke about, I met our very first club member, Big Jim, and he had a 72 El Camino with a 527. And he became like an uncle to me, and this was still around. It's still part of the family and stuff like that. So it's really awesome how a lot of these people become so close to you, and they do so much for you. You do so much for them. It's so much love within the community of the automotive world down here. You get a lot of families in the club. You got father sons, so we're all about the family experience. And a lot of cool people with cool builds are getting like one of the first cars for a certain make and model. So we get all types, old school, new school, hot rod builders. Like I said, the father son building something together and also buying a new Challenger as well and sharing it. So there's a wide variety of people, and just the cool people I met, just like John Hovis, who's a club member that owns that Hemi Hideout, which I've done a lot of content at and a lot of events at. So you just never know who you meet and what they're building, until they invite you and like, come take a look at my car, take a look at my man cave and all this good stuff. So I mean, it's been wild.
Yeah, you just walk out there, your jaw drops like this exists.
And still people don't know about it. I think it's been around for at least 6, 7 years now.
Wow.
So a little hidden gem.
So I will bring up Houston Auto Show this past year had a special section that either you coordinated, you helped coordinate, you worked out, that really combined both of your passions with West Houston Muscle and Nerdtropolis. Shed a little light on not only how that came to be, but what all was there.
Yeah, so I was asked to curate a special display for the Houston Auto Show. I was excited when I heard that, and they kind of gave me free reign of what to do. I was like, well, okay, well, I have the WHM brand and I have Nerdtropolis brand, and I love cars. And so let's do like an extreme display for WHM with a lot of those builds. And then let's do come out some movie-based, pop culture-based vehicles for Nerdtropolis and kind of combine that. That'd be kind of cool. Radical on both ends. So for WHM, we had the Hot Wheels winner, Legends Tour, of a C6 Corvette that's fully modified, twin turbo, crazy radical Corvette as one of the display cars. Then a backdraft 427R Cobra that's super radical as well, like set up for racing. All these cars look like they're too radical for racing. That's how beautiful they look. And then we had a Viper ACR, which was totally awesome as well. And then on the other side for Nerdtropolis, got to go pop culture. So I had my buddy with an Ecto One come out. I had a club member that has a DeLorean that came out, so Back to the Future, Ghostbusters right there. And I was like, well, I've had this police car, this 1968 Plymouth police car for a while. And I said, since I started Nerdtropolis, I'm like, how do I make this into a pop culture police car? Because everyone says it looks like the car from Adam 12, other shows. But I'm like, I'm a little bit more nerdier than that. So I made it into a Transformer.
Okay.
If you're familiar with the Transformer franchise of the new movies, there is Barricade, which was a Shelby Mustang police car. I was like, let me just make this a Gen 1 Transformer, Decepticon. I'll call him the Decepticop, and just upped all the stuff that was kind of similar to what we saw in the Transformer movie. And so I brought that. So that was kind of fun. It's a car that I don't care who touches, kids can get in it. It's one of those cars. So I'd like to share that passion with everybody else and nerd out with them.
Yeah, yeah. So shall we see? I know we're still months away from the next Houston Auto Show. Are we going to see any follow up to this? Maybe go bigger and better next year?
I hope so. I'll have to catch up with them because I'm already trying to figure out what we're doing for the upcoming Autorama show. We want to kind of have our own club display and do some radical stuff. So, but I'm also thinking about what we can do for the Houston Auto Show. So the wheels are always turning. You know how it is.
Hmm.
It's always turning for 500 different projects we have in our head. So I'm always thinking and making contacts with people. I'm like, what can we do? I know I want to get maybe the winner of the last Hot Wheels Legends Tour stop right here, which was a really cool like mini truck that was lifted to like Godzilla size,
Hmm.
crazy thing. So I mean, I have a lot of cars I have in mind I want to kind of add to make a really special one of a kind curated display.
Yeah, yeah. So, what are some other events that you've done in that area, or even maybe traveling outside of the metro area? What all has stood out to you?
Event wise, which I love being part of or help coordinate, I love being a judge on the Hot Wheels Legends Tour. That's a blessing, and that's really coolly part of the Hot Wheels family. The ones I self coordinate, one of the ones I'm super excited we're bringing back is the Boobs Rock Car Show that we do here with the local radio station, The Buzz, with the Rod Ryan Show. And they have a great foundation where they give back to multiple charities. And so our Boobs Rock Car Show is going to go towards cancer research. 100% of the proceeds, everything that we're getting in that people bring to donate, it's going to cancer research. And so we're excited to bring that back. So a lot of our charity-based events I get really super excited about. And then in between we do competition car shows and drag racing. But I just love the big charity events because people open their wallets and their hearts, and we can raise. I think we're close to $15,000 in just one day for the Boobs Rock Car Show just to go cancer research. So that was a big deal. So we hope to replicate that again.
Okay, okay. Kind of diving into your past a little bit. You mentioned your M5 that kind of got you in the European.
Oh, I wish it was an M5
Oh,
car. I
sorry.
wish it was M5. It wasn't even an M5. I did make it look like an M5,
Yeah, see,
but
see.
E39 528.
Okay.
But it was cool, and I did admire all the M5 guys. But yeah, let's go back to that awesome time.
Uh, what what other vehicles have you had in your arsenal? What was your first vehicle? What sparked your interest in cars to begin with?
Well, to be honest, it was that E39 was my first car in high school. I
Nice.
had a 99 528. It was black, black on black, you know how it goes. And that's what really got me into learning more about cars, engines, everything else that goes wrong with cars, because everything goes wrong with the BMW, right? But my dad, growing up in Iran and coming over here, had a lot of cool cars from like a BMW 2002, Volkswagen Bug, Chevy Blazer, Camaro, RX-7. I mean, so he had a Mach 1. So a lot of my passion comes from him. And
Very
obviously learning comes from him as well.
very eclectic history of cars in your dad's garage there. My goodness, going
And I
from
think only 10% of them.
oh.
It's only 10% I can think of.
So obviously it's somewhat of a hereditary thing over there in the Tajipur family, huh?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it was maybe 8 years ago. We bought our first classic car together, and that was the 1932 Pontiac that I have still. That when Mecum first came to Houston, we were just wowed because we saw watch Mecum on TV, and then never made its way to Houston. So we were in heaven when it came, and then I was like, well, we find something, we find something. Or we don't. That's money saved in our pocket. It's not a big deal because we know this hobby is expensive.
Exactly. So
So we saw all the cars that were there. We saw them all. We thought we did at least. And we're sitting in the front row, and this 1932 Pontiac rolls by. I'm like, we didn't see this at all. Where did this come from? And I'm a Pontiac guy.
okay.
Love them. Got to have them all, but I don't have the room. So it was no reserve when we started bidding on it, and it was kind of a tough battle. But I was like, if we want to go for it, we're gonna go for it. We're gonna battle these guys. So I think it started about 5,000, and then we got it at the hammer at 12,000, which is not bad if you think about it.
Yeah.
Unrestored original 1932 Pontiac. Never seen a 1930s Pontiac in my life. And afterwards, we realized this was one of the cars that's going to show on Fast and Loud. It was one of the cars Richard and Aaron bought from Gas Monkey Garage that they found in Decatur, Texas at a swap meet. So that was a really cool story right there. And then just being on the episode and meeting the guys was pretty cool. So ultimate experience we didn't know about because the show was not even out yet. This was just the beginnings.
Interesting. So, I my automotive history really starts in the 60s. Like anything 50s and earlier, I'm like, yeah, I kind of know what that is. Like everyone knows a 57 Chevy. I can kind of spot out a 55 and 56 for the differences there. But really, 67 with the Camaro is where my automotive history lessons started and everything forward of that. So, what would you say is like your go to era of automotive?
That's a good question. The more you're surrounded by these cars, you learn about them, right? I know as obviously as a kid, I was so obsessed with a lot of 90s cars,
Mhm.
a lot of weird stuff that I wanted, like the Toyota Spiders and the Celicas and all that stuff. So like growing up, I just had, especially what Hot Wheels provided you at the time, right? A lot of old school stuff. But when it came to old school, I think a lot of 70s and 80s cars are really where I was at. I think a lot of 80s cars I got obsessed with too. So that's really where mid to late 80s and early 90s is like really where I originally started knowing about cars. But obviously with the car club stuff, I was learning about every era of cars from people, show me all the differences, and then diving into all the types of Pontiacs and the tri-powers and the different Trans Ams and stuff like that. So I mean, my whole world opened up in college when I was pushed into this world of muscle American cars.
Yeah. Well, now you got to get you a Smokey and the Bandit.
I have a lot of cars, and I should have bought them back then because man, these prices have gone up. And I will tell you what my dream car is, which is not in a Pontiac, but it's a Testarossa.
Okay.
And for a long time, I'm like, I'm close. I think I can buy one. They're only 60,000, right? Only, and which is expensive for when I wanted. That was like still like pretending, but I was like, I think I can afford a 60,000 Testarossa. Those are 200,000 now. That's just ridiculous. I it was not too long ago. They were like 60, 65, and now they're. I was like, man, I should have bought it then.
Yeah. If only we knew, right?
Right. And on top of that, the DeLorean is still on my list, man. The DeLorean is one of those cars too. It keeps going up in price. But it's just you have these cars. I have four now, and you don't have time for majority of them.
So, what are the four in your current garage?
So the 32 Pontiac, the 68 Plymouth Satellite police car, and then my '06 GTO that started West Houston Muscle I still have. And then my daily is the H2 Hummer that I just changed the radiator on. So, but I'm hoping it's a very weird transition that my next daily to replace the Hummer, because I love trucks and I love big things, is the Cybertruck. Because it makes sense for me because if they do a long range with it and it has a performance of a 911, I'll take that any day, you know? So it's cool looking for me. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's crazy stupid looking.
Yeah, I can just imagine, putting your branding all over it, and you would definitely stand out.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. And it's a radical DeLorean to me. If I can't afford a DeLorean and you can't really daily drive those, I'll take a Tesla Cybertruck if it ever happens. Knock on wood.
Yeah. So I about fell over. I went to just a small car club, well, not even a car club, but just a car show in White House, Texas, last fall, and was walking around some cool different vehicles there. We were asked to judge and give away an award there. And I get kind of towards the back of the lot, and sitting right there is a DeLorean. And I was like, my goodness. Like, I started taking pictures of it because my wife absolutely loves the DeLorean. Anytime we do, uh, my son is out there screaming now. Anytime we do, every March, we do a kind of March Madness Dream Car Bracket Challenge on our Instagram. And she always nominates the DeLorean. So I was like, well, I've got to take these pictures for her. They were packing up to leave. Like, they had to go early. And I was like, man, you just walked out of an award because I would have voted for you just because you don't see them anywhere anymore.
No, and it's crazy that I don't think the car would be what it is without Back to the Future. I wonder if they picked a different car, like no one would talk about the DeLorean, to be honest. I it's just one of those things I feel like that movie catapulted it and just like froze it in front of everybody, and now no one can forget about it.
So that really is the perfect intersection and segue between your two lives, your two worlds, pop culture and automotive. And that is a perfect example of, yeah, that car probably would have died a slow, quiet death because John DeLorean was going through his own stuff back then. Legendary automaker, you've got a GTO. His DNA is all over, maybe not the version you have, but that vehicle in its own right, and the whole muscle car movement of the 60s that you and I both love. So just very interesting that yes, if they had picked any other vehicle, where would DeLorean be? Because now they're coming back and they've got this Alpha 5 that looks bonkers and based here in Texas. I don't know. I'm getting really excited for the return of DeLorean.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, we gotta admit though, like it's not the same company, even though they want to say it is. So like they really should take a step back on that aspect of it. It's just a trademark buy
Right.
or something. So, but other than that, any type of automaker that wants to dive into the EV world and provide some type of cool car is always up for it. I think EV needs to pick up the pace and offer better range and better price points. I'll always advocate hybrid over EV, to be honest. Until then, and people forget like they hear hybrid and they think it's EV. I'm like, no, that's it's a good combination between the two, and you get a big range of that. But it's cool to see like the branding is still there for DeLorean. I mean, it's a pop culture brand now, if you think about it, with a
Yep.
good follow. Now they want to dive into something different, a new era for DeLorean.
Yep. So, diving into pop culture and automotive, what are some? I know I brought up Smokey and the Bandit, but what are some icons that really stand out to you in that space?
I'm gonna go a little new school. I mean, I'm 33 years old, and so a lot of stuff in junior high and high school really catapulted my interest in cars. And the two movies that did that for me were Gone in 60 Seconds with Nicolas Cage, obviously the remake. I know everyone's like the original is so great. Yes, it is. But for me, my eyes and my brain and my senses went to that movie. And then the first Fast and Furious movie. I know it's a cliche, but it's so true with the age that I am that that really catapulted me. I remember renting it from Blockbuster and taking it home to watch. I'm like, this is exciting.
You've just, I know you said you're 33, I'm 35, and we're aging ourselves talking about
Yeah.
Fast and Furious and Blockbuster.
But people
But
are like, it's that old. I'm like, yeah, it's that old. I think that was what 2001 for Fast and
yep,
Furious.
something like
Or-
that, yeah. And what's even crazier is while I had that Supra, I don't know if you've seen it, but I have friends here in town that are selling a Ferrari California still up for sale. Go check it out. And I was like, I know these aren't the same as what was featured in that one scene right after they fixed up the Supra, but I've got a Supra, I've got a Ferrari. I have to recreate that scene. And so that was the intro to both the Ferrari California review video and the Supra video. I had to tweak it a little to make it different for each, but that definitely had my nostalgia meter turned up to 11 for sure.
yeah, I think it was just the right time for a lot of us that were just going to get into cars and start driving and stuff like that. I mean, I remember really kind of going backwards a little bit. The auto show used to show a lot of concepts, local, like the Houston Auto Show back in the day had a lot of concept cars. And that's when I first saw the Prowler, the Plymouth Prowler. That was the car I really wanted as my first car, which is crazy to think of. But I remember my dad taking me to a dealership to sit in one, and I couldn't fit.
Oh, wow.
I was only like 12 or 13, already at the size, already close to 6 feet. But those cars were not made for, going to be made for tall people. So like that type of styling, and then Fast and Furious coming out and seeing a lot of cool radical cars and modified cars. I'm like, okay, you don't have to go buy something like that. You can make something. You can build it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I can remember I had both a purple and a yellow Prowler poster on my wall from the Scholastic Book Fair, among other vehicles.
Yeah, and I wish they brought that back in somehow, some way.
It would have to be under the Dodge brand, I would assume. And, it would make for a crazy bonkers EV.
Yes, that's exactly what I was about to say. I was like, since they're going the EV way, they need to do like a Prowler edition. Just like kind of like Ford brought the Lightning back in a different way.
Hmm.
The same thing with the Prowler.
I was so close. There was a gold Prowler at a dealership that I've worked with very extensively here in town. And of course, they wanted to show it off. So they had it on one of their pedestals. So it wasn't really easy to get to. So every time I went there, they're like, oh no, come back another time and we'll arrange to make it happen. And then somebody saw it online and said I had to have it. And they quote unquote bought it out from under me. So I am yet to get any seat time in a Prowler, but for me, I know purple was like the color, but I'd probably just from that poster that I had on my wall, yellow, that bright, crazy in your face yellow would probably be the one I'd go for. That car made no sense whatsoever, but I could, just head down there to Houston, go see Hennessy and get it all fixed up because he made some Corvette killers out of them.
Yeah, he did. And I've been lucky enough to work with John over there with this racetrack and just seeing what he's building now and the Venom and all that stuff is just crazy from how it started and now how it's progressing on. And like I said, these individual independent builders, just like DeLorean's kind of like that, are building this really cool specialty vehicles for people that really want the fun and obviously have the money to pay for it. But these are almost like one of a kind builds.
Yeah, and it gives the whole industry just a little bit of flair and pizzazz, and you know, Elon is doing his thing, and the Cybertruck definitely falls in that flair and pizzazz category. But as of yet, it's still seemingly vaporware. So we'll see if, when, how, what it actually looks like. I know they've had to tweak it to make it road legal, and the mirrors and the giant windshield wiper and all that fun stuff. But
Which I'm totally cool. I don't even have any stocks in Tesla, but I always listen to their earnings call just somehow, like afterwards, just so I can hear any updates on the Cybertruck. Like, what does he say now? One little sentence I'm looking for to see what he says.
well,
But
have you been out to the outskirts of Austin to see where they're going to build that thing?
well, I passed by the factory when I was there, and it's amazing. Like, it takes you a while to drive past it. That's how big it is.
Yeah, and it's you have like an 80, 85 mile an hour speed limit at the time too.
Yeah, and you can't even hold your breath and pass it. That's how wide it is, you know?
Yeah,
And it's really cool. It's near the airport. I think they want to build a tunnel system maybe to the airport somehow. And it's just wild that everything's coming to Texas. So I welcome anyone else on top of that of Tesla being here to come grow out here in Texas. It's really awesome.
yeah. I remember it was the last Texas Auto Riders truck rodeo. We were heading out that way and passed by it, and it was nondescript at the time. I don't know. He's probably branded it by now because that was over a year ago, or just at a year ago. But it I was like, man, what is that? That has to be Tesla. That can be nothing else other than, because it was just that massive. And we got to look in and pulled it up on, good old trusty Google, and sure enough, yeah, that thing is huge. So I know that plays in big to the logistics of getting the Cybertruck on the road. Like, you can't have the truck until you've got the factory that'll make it. So yeah, we're all anxiously waiting.
I know, and they're changing like I think the models too. I think they're offering a quad version. So I don't think there'll be a single motor anymore. I think they'll do dual, tri, and then a quad version, and then a bunch of stuff. So we'll see. I know they want to get the semi truck out first. I
Yeah.
think that's what I heard before they move on to that. So we'll see. But maybe I'll just save up again and get a DeLorean and make it a time machine and pretend I'm Marty McFly.
I
Which I
mean,
will say, I met Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox at a Dallas convention when they had a reunion just maybe 3 years ago, and that was like a dream come true to meet Michael J. Fox too. I mean, I love Christopher Lloyd, but growing up, Michael J. Fox in all his movies was just like what I would watch all the time.
yeah. Were you able to hear the line 1.21 gigawatts?
Everyone keeps asking him to say that. It's funny, and then some other cast members were there, so it's really cool reunion. But yeah, I probably watched that movie a million times. If it's on TV, even with commercials, I'll sit there and watch it. Like, it's one of those things I get drawn to. So that's definitely one of my top favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, we all have those movies. Ironically for me, like I love Back to the Future. I watch it quite often. But another fun DeLorean centric movie that I watch, you may be able to guess it. You're in the nerd space, but Wedding Singer, Adam Sandler, Drew Barrymore. She's dating this investment banker, stock bond trader, junk bond trader. I don't know. But he drives the DeLorean because he's just that jerk of a guy from the 80s with money. And yeah, so that is one of those movies. I remember we rented it from Blockbuster one weekend. Or 1 week during the summer. My brother, my mom, and I must have watched it 20 times on VHS back in the day. And now, anytime I see that on, I'm like, oh, yep, Wedding Singer. Gotta watch it.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites too. I guess yeah, because of the DeLorean, and I love like the nightclub scene. It was just weird. You don't see many '80s movies that really focus like cool scenes in nightclubs because '80s nightclubs are so different. Like especially in Coming to America, there's a scene with like a nightclub. So I just love like the '80s vibes. And like I remember in college, I was like, maybe I should open up an '80s nightclub, and I came up with like all the designs, the names. I was gonna call it the Reflex, based on the what band? It's who sings "Hungry Like the Wolf."
Oh, I know 80s songs, but
Yeah,
try and give
and they
me.
have called the Reflex, and I was like, I'm gonna call it the Reflex. I forget. I guess I'm not that big of an '80s fan. I
Yeah.
can't remember the band, but no, I just like love like the neon colors, the dance floors that the light up and all this cool stuff, and '80s cars, which I tried to kind of replicate the vibe with one of my events, which is this is way before Neutropolis, was skate to the '80s, and I rented out a skating rink and sold tickets and had '80s music on the TVs. I had like movie scenes. I told everyone to dress up '80s, and then I had like '80s cars on display in front of the skating rink. So that was like my little moment of like going back in time and becoming like I'm a business owner and own like some type of cool place.
I love it.
So
I
that
love
was
it.
fun.
Yep, yep. Well, Sean, I could go on and on. We've barely even dived, jumped into the Nerdtropolis side of things, but we'll definitely send people that direction to go check out all that you do. But I want to be respectful of your time, so we'll close out with a segment I call Random Misfire. I've got a list of like 20 questions. I'll narrow it down to my eight favorite because eight cylinders in an engine is just like the sweet spot there. So if you're ready, we'll kind of go at it lightning round style.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm ready.
All right, first one I ask everybody anytime I've got them on. Do you name your cars?
Yes, I do. Well, not all of them, but the GTO is named Sydney for being built in Australia.
Okay, okay. Like it. I like it. Yeah, I jokingly started naming my cars and have named every one of my daily drivers since. So, yes, I'm with you on that one. Let's see. We've talked a lot about both internal combustion and EV. What's your flavor? What's your preference?
Just give me a V8. I'll be happy. Just give me a good old V8.
Yes, yes. I'm with you on that. All right. So we were talking kind of not Gone in 60 Seconds, but Fast and Furious really opened your eyes, and sitting in that Prowler really opened your eyes. You didn't have to buy everything, you could build it. Which is your preference there, build or buy?
A little bit of both. Maybe something that's something newer, but also that has a really awesome aftermarket, list of things you can add to it. But I don't know. I might start building up the police car to something cooler than it already is. So a little bit of both.
Yeah, when you get into that build space, there's really so much gray area because first you got to have the vehicle, the platform, and are you going new? Are you going old? Uh, are you going resto mod? What do you like? Possibilities are endless, but very finite choice of new cars and where you're going there. And as more and more manufacturers say, we're going EV, you're losing that V8 option that you want so bad. More tech or less tech in vehicles?
I think less tech. Surprisingly, I'm a tech guy,
Yeah.
but lately I feel like in these cars I need like a week before I learn everything. And there's all these secret little knobs and secret settings that I don't even get to at some point. And I'm just like, maybe less tech or some type of 2-minute YouTube video that like really runs through them. But I think less tech for me.
So, a vehicle you desperately need to get into just because you mentioned you love color and you love performance. Electric vehicles do have inspiration over there in the West Houston Muscle crowd. You need to talk to Genesis and get you a GV60 out there because I had the Sao Paulo Lime one that is in the Dallas fleet. You need to get that one. Talking about hidden features, that's got, and they even branded it this way, hidden drift mode. And the sequence of things that you have to do, I believe the straight pipes actually put it out there, the sequence of events that you have to do. I did not attempt it because I'm Mr. Goody Two Shoes that thinks if I ever do something to that effect, I'm going to find the one and only light pole in the entire parking lot. But I think that vehicle would be right up your alley for sure.
Yeah, I had people ask me about those cars, and I saw the colors that you've been getting and the awesomeness they look. And yeah, I definitely need to get one of those. That color's sick too, and
Yep.
I hear from Genesis. So yeah, definitely be adding that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely reach out to Genesis and get that on your list. I think your crowd would like it. I think you would love it. I know you've been in a TRX. I've already mentioned you and I drove it in 2020. Raptor and Raptor R, we haven't gotten to drive yet, but which is your flavor? I can't even talk. I'm a podcaster, whatever. What's your flavor there, TRX or Raptor?
Ooh, that is hard. I do like the sound of the TRX, and it is bulkier and bigger, I feel like, than the Raptor. I love the styling. And I'll kind of give you a quick story is they had a special screening of the latest Fast and Furious movie here at a new movie theater, and they asked me to bring some cars. So I brought a Shelby GT500, a Hellcat, and I had the TRX from the fleet that I took. And we had Tyrese show up from the movie to come check out these cars. So that was a really awesome experience there. So the TRX definitely gave me some street cred with Tyrese. Um, but I love the colors of the Raptor,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of like their stance.
Mm-hmm. All
So
right.
I think a Raptor between that for now.
We got to get you behind the wheel of a Raptor R, man.
I know we do. We both do.
Yes. Yes. Speaking of crazy off-road trucks, what is your preference, off-road or on?
I'm an on-road guy. My back can only take so much.
Yeah. I mean, you cross that 30-year mark and things don't quite work the way they used to, right?
I literally just went to watch Bullet Train, the new Brad Pitt movie, in 4DX, which was the roller coaster experience for movies.
Holy cow.
And I was just laughing the whole time because I said, "This is extreme." I was just at Six Flags the week prior and rode the most steep roller coaster that just came out,
Right.
and I was like, "That was easier to ride than enjoying the 4DX screening because that thing sprays water." Pushes you around and like you feel all the gunshots and kicks in your back. I'm like, oh, I need a chiropractor. So if I'm sensitive to a movie in 4DX, I'm definitely sensitive to a lot of off-roading as well, even though it is fun
Yeah.
and the capabilities are cool, but I'm an on-road guy.
Yeah. Well, I got to ask you, how was the movie?
It's really fun. It is long, but and a lot of dialogue, which is great dialogue, but it's worth watching, but not in 4DX. I don't know. Unless you like love craziness, then yeah, 4DX. But if you love your body, no.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. I don't think 40X is in my future either because motion sickness and all that good stuff. No, no, thank you. Ooh, let's see here. Burnouts or donuts?
Burnouts.
So many manufacturers now are building in this line lock feature where you hit a button and you can just do a burnout no problem, and it's made it so much more fun. Well, I guess that depends.
Well, just creating a lot of smoke is fun. I mean, just like nonstop smoke. That's really what the spectacle is for me.
Yeah. All right. Eighth question coming up here. Favorite driving song, playlist, genre? Like you're going on a road trip, you got to go to Dallas, you got to go somewhere on the other side of Texas. What are you listening to?
Surprising the song I was so obsessed with, and I've made videos with them back in high school, and I love 80s is Gary Newman's Cars.
Okay.
That was like the soundtrack for me in high school for some weird reason, and I never get tired of that car. It's such a cliche song too if you're a car lover. But man, yeah, Gary Newman's Cars just stuck with me, and
The funny thing about that song is it came back into my life. I don't know. You brought up you went to Fiesta, Texas not that long ago. Have you been to Kings Island in Cincinnati, Ohio?
I have not.
That is a must go if you enjoy theme parks. And went out there. They have a roller coaster. Oh gosh, I can't even think of the name of it now. It's a new one. Anyway, the whole story behind it is back in the 80s, this logging company was clearing out this section of land and something drove them all the way. And it's like this eerie, haunting ghost story. And as you pull into the shed at the end of the ride, they've got 4 different songs that I believe they play. But you pull in there and Cars is one of the songs that plays. Again, it's set back in like 70s, 80s time frame, and you're sitting in there, you're kind of listening to the song, and then all of a sudden it pops out. And I'm not going to give it all away because you got to go ride it. I can't. Gosh, I even bought a hat from the ride, and it was the lumber company, the fictional lumber company of the ride. It's some Mystic Timbers, I think, or something like that. I don't know. It's such a shame. It's been like 4 years since I've ridden it, but that clearly one of my favorite rides. It left an impression and was quite fun at that. But yeah, that 80s nostalgia goes pretty hard.
It does. It surely does.
Well, Sean, I absolutely thank you for jumping on and joining me on the podcast this week. Where can my listeners find you and all that you do in all aspects, both on the car side and on the pop culture side?
Yeah, 2 easiest ways is always on our website. So westhoustonmuscle.com for the automotive based stuff. I also have WHM Automotive Media on that site. And then if you're like movie news and reviews and trailers, you just go to nerd-tropolis.com. And I have everything on my Instagram at Shantaj as well. So easy to find all that stuff.
Yeah, well, I have been following you on all your outlets, and I thank you for keeping me informed on the pop culture side for sure. But just love catching up with you. And hope to see you in just a little over a month at the Texas Auto Riders Truck Rodeo for 2022. If you've got a moment, I've got a couple more questions that we'll put behind the Patreon paywall that we'll ask you. If you're interested, patreon.com/GT Garage Talk. Sign up at the $5 tier and up, and you'll have access to all of our aftermarket questions here. But Sean, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks again to Sean for joining me this week and talking cars, talking social media, talking pop culture. It is absolutely fun catching up and talking with him. He has quite the list of acquaintances and people he's come in contact with. Notice how he dropped that whole Tyrese comment in there. So I'm just saying there is a lot of cool conversation going on there. He does his own podcast. He interviews people from all over the pop culture spectrum. So if you're interested in that world, absolutely go check him out. Again, I am just so grateful that he spent his day talking with me today and just getting to share his story and his passion with my audience. I am incredibly grateful. Links down in the description for following him. You know all of our stuff, gtgaragetalk.com. And until next time, gearheads, bye.